Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to be speaking to fellow members of the Education and Workforce Committee. My subcommittee on early childhood, elementary, and secondary education has done extensive research into how to combat the enduring epidemic of uneducated students in America. I am the chairman of this committee, and I'm also a ranking member on the subcommittee on higher education and workforce development. In the course of these next 10 minutes, I will be consolidating the major talking points of H.R. 1510, States Education Reclamation Act of 2017. Following my report, a member of the Congressional Budget Office will comment their fiscal findings on this bill. Additionally, Denisha Mayweather will also be a witness on how the current public school system has failed her and continues to fail other underprivileged communities. Following her testimony, there will be a question and answer period. The current public school system is failing students, teachers, families, and our nation's ability to prosper as a whole. What's primarily at the fault for this? Not funding, not teachers, not even school boards. The culprit is the Department of Education. It is never once stated in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution that education is under federal domain. In this specific section, the federal government's jurisdictions are clearly outlined and further emphasized in the 10th Amendment. Any domain that isn't in the federal government's responsibilities is left to the state's discretion. Thus, education should be left to the state's discretion. Before we can fix our problems, though, of public education, we must understand how we got to this point. First, some history and statistics. This is not the first idea of the Department of Education that has been tested and inevitably failed. Before its creation in 1979, it has been previously tested under the Jackson administration. It lasted 1 year before Congress abolished it because they concluded that the federal government doesn't have the jurisdiction under the Constitution to have this much of a say in education at the state level. In administrations following, the federal government assumed its presence in education through small steps. First, the goal was just to collect data on the success of schools to ensure the system was going successfully. Then from that, they wanted to know more about how they can help afflicted students through programs, and so they created programs to help them. Some examples are assisting in handicapped children, school lunch programs, vocational schools, and other programs that help students succeed. All of these great assistances were done without the institution of the Department of Education. Now with the Department of Education, the public school system breeds mediocrity rather than innovation through new learning methods. During the Reagan administration, his education secretary commented on this, and even now we see this trend continuing in the results in rankings. So for example, Pew Research Center placed the United States on a global level based on their test scores at a whopping 38 out of 71 countries. Additionally, the U.S. News puts my personal home state of Arizona at 43rd out of 50 states. The American dream cannot be achieved without educating our citizens and future generations. Now let's talk money. It is to no surprise that the rising national debt is greatly funded by the growing bureaucracy. Over the short life of 34 years, the Department of Education has grown in its budget $51.7 billion in discretionary appropriations. As we have seen time and time again, though, throwing money at our problems doesn't fix them. As a nation, we sink lower and lower in rankings in our performances. All the while, we expect that paying teachers less, trapping them in unions, and that also slash their paychecks, they'll somehow be motivated to teach our children better and improve the school system? Many people have the passion to teach and want to teach, but they don't have the financial backing, while some bureaucrats have the financial backing but lack the same drive to be efficient at their job. It can seem hard to blame them, though, because regulating a body so far away can be hard to do. The only issue is that we as taxpayers are paying them vastly more to be better for our children. In my committee's research, the average national salary for public school teachers is $56,103, while the average salary for a Department of Education employee is $108,571. And even some teachers are even less than the national average, such as North Carolina, which their teachers are getting paid an annual salary of $45,737 a year. That's about half the amount that a bureaucrat is getting paid to monitor them to be doing a good job. This does not benefit our kids, and it does not give them the education they deserve. Finally, there is a solution with a compromise. It is one where we can maintain federalism, uphold beneficial programs to help those that need it most, and decrease the national debt. That solution is H.R. 1510, States Education Reclamation Act of 2017. This bill does not just abolish the Department of Education and leave students and schools unattended. Instead, it gives them actual resources they need to succeed and the freedom for states to thrive by best fitting the needs of their direct citizens. First, the Department of Education will be abolished in the course of a year of this bill being passed. Not all remnants of the good that the department has done will be gone, though. If we want our schools to be innovative, we should be innovative in our policy as well, keeping the good and getting rid of the bad. This bill will keep the programs that the Secretary of Education or Department of Education has direct responsibility for as provided by law or delegation. Also, all programs protecting against discriminatory actions of students, such as disability, benefits of the Title IX, or specifications under the Civil Rights Act of 1964 will still be upheld. Additionally, this bill won't abandon students who are dependent upon government aid. Programs like special education, the Impact Act, and the federal Pell Grant, student loans, and more will be transferred to direct supervision of other departments. The more bureaucracy from D.C. does not solve our problems. Members of the state that know their schools and the families that have their children going to those schools know how to solve those problems best. Next, our expert from the Congressional Budget Office will speak about how H.R. 1510, States Education Reclamation Act of 2017, will spend taxpayers' money more wisely. And following him will be Denisha Merriweather talking about how public school systems rob underprivileged communities and continue to do that. Thank you for your time. I present to you our expert.